Thank you everyone for attending our High Value Home webinar. We really appreciate you taking the time in your busy day to learn more about writing high net worth business with Abram Interstate. We hope you learned a lot, and please reach out to us with any questions that you might have.
All right, good afternoon everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us for our monthly webinar series, and this month highlighting high value homes. Before we get started this afternoon, I want to cover a couple different items. First off, just cover some housekeeping items with Webex. As you can see on your screen, you're going to have a nice picture of a beautiful home with a pool. In the upper right-hand corner of that picture should be two arrows facing outwards from each other. If you press on that, it will make the picture full screen. In terms of timing, we're going to try to keep this concise. We know you're all very busy. Try to keep it to 35 to 40 minutes. At the end, we will have a question and answer. If you do have question and answers throughout the webinar, there is a dedicated box for a question and answer. In addition to the question and answer box, there is a chat feature as well. We're going to use the chat feature for a little trivia throughout the webinar, so if you could hold off on inputting on the chat, that'd be great, and just any questions into the question and answer. In addition, we're going to be recording this webinar, and we will edit it and send it out to you guys in a couple business days, along with all the slides that we're going to cover today. So without further ado, let's get into it. My name is John Poucher. I'm the Sales and Marketing Manager here at Abram Interstate Insurance Services. I've been in the insurance industry for 6 years, been with Abram Interstate for 4, and Megan is our high value home guru.
Yes, I'm Megan Fitzgerald. I'm the personal lines team lead. I have been with Abram Interstate for going on about 13 years. The last 5 years have been primarily focused on our high value program.
We're going to cover a lot today. First off, we're going to define what is high value. There's a lot of different definitions out in the marketplace about what constitutes a high value home. So we're going to go over that. And then we're going to cover the state of the current marketplace. There's a lot going on in the marketplace right now. We'll go over all of that. Talk about what we can write. First, we're going to focus on our harder, more unique high value homes, and then go into our admitted standard offerings with Chubb. In addition to that, we're going to focus on the West because that's where we are licensed. We are licensed in the 11 western states, primarily writing most of our business in California. Most of the agents and brokers on this call are in California, so they understand that, and that's where you get most of your business as well. But for anybody that might be outside, just know that we're going to focus mainly about the exposures and the products and programs that are here in the western U.S.
So what does define high value? Obviously, it's based upon coverage A, but what do you consider high value? For the sake of our webinar today, we're really going to focus on our appetite here at Abram Interstate. We know different carriers and different GAs have different terms and guidelines, and they can all use high value with a little bit different meaning to that. So when we're looking at a limit of $500,000, doesn't sound particularly high value. However, that really is one of our lowest limits available in some of our high value programs, being Lloyds of London, Travelers, Safeco. Sometimes they will consider those in their high value. 750 is really where Travelers begins their high value policy package, which offers a little bit more enhancements. Same with Safeco, basically in the same role there. 750 again, not too high, but we're looking at those two markets in addition to our Lloyds product. 1 million. 1 million can be a little harder to place with some of the admitted companies. Travelers and Safeco are still open to those limits. However, some situations may not qualify where they would have qualified at a 750 limit. Still very open in our Lloyds program, and our Chubb product is really where we start at for 1 million. 1.5, again, there are some admitted players in that arena. However, we do find that it becomes harder and harder to place primarily the markets we work with, Travelers and Safeco. There's sometimes a requirement on brush, location, loss history, things that make it a little bit harder. So when we're looking at 1.5, we're gearing that towards Lloyds and Chubb. $2 million, this is basically what we consider our sweet spot for high value. A lot of the other companies have now fallen off the radar as far as acceptability goes, and so this is really what we're targeting when we say $2 million. $3 million, of course, is even better. That's really the starting range of true high value. There are a couple admitted programs out there that may touch the 2 and 3 million. However, they could require other supporting lines of business and so on. So when we look at 3 million, and it's on, especially when it's on a standalone application for homeowners, we're thinking Chubb, we're thinking Lloyds of London. That's our product. So when we say high value, again, gearing those towards our appetite here at Abram Interstate, the 2 to 3 million range is truly where we take off.
That's really where we see the admitted players and standard writers start to fall off in offering terms in that arena. So, the state of the marketplace. Just like the rest of the industry, the high value market has been recently affected by the strong M&A activity going on. 3 of the largest high value home books are merging together. ACE First Bought Fireman's Fund over the past year or so has been merging that book onto ACE paper. And then a little under a year ago, Chubb and ACE had a merger. It's actually an acquisition by ACE of Chubb. And they've made the decision to rebrand everything Chubb. And so, you know, after merging the Fireman's Fund book into ACE, they're also going to be merging the ACE book then into Chubb. You know, this has really created a lot of, you know, restrictions within the marketplace. More people are withdrawing from the high value marketplace and being harder to write business with, AIG being one of those. They typically want the whole package and really do not want any monoline business. In addition, Crestbrook Insurance Company is now branded as Nationwide Private Client. And they're becoming much more restrictive on their appetite depending on the areas, especially brush. If you look at Farmers and State Farm, they're also very tight right now with new business. And they've been dramatically uprating existing business as well, so they're seeing some of their current business actually leave them as well. And if you go into the specialty arena, the non-admitted arena, there's only a few carriers really writing this business. It's going to be Lexington, Aspen Specialty, and Lloyds. Lexington, we're really seeing their pricing be all across the board, being competitive at times, and then really, really expensive at other times. And then Aspen Specialty, we're really not hearing of them being in the marketplace very active. We think their appetite on the West Coast is really reducing in 2016. And then finally, Lloyds. We're going to cover Lloyds in our offering and more education around Lloyds in a little bit. You know, so what does this all mean, the state of the marketplace? You know, really, bottom line, this is a big opportunity for you. More business is moving around and shopping than ever. In addition, the economic conditions continue to be favorable for availability of high net worth business. The economy tends to do fairly well. So there are more people building and buying high value homes. And then the merging of books, we talked about that. 3 of the largest high-value home books merging together always causes disruption. There's re-underwriting, confusion, frustration from the agents as well as the insureds. So those focusing on this market have a real opportunity to write a lot of new business right now. So we're going to talk about Abram Interstate's high-value home offering. We have 2 different carriers that we write with, certain underwriters at Lloyds of London, as well as the Chubb group of companies. But before we get into the different products and programs that we have available with Abram Interstate, I'm going to start off with our first trivia question to wake us all up from our post-nap food coma. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a question, and then the person that gets closest to the answer, and it's not Price is Right rules, you can be over and be closest to still, will get a $20 Amazon gift card. So I'm going to ask a question, then type your answers into the chat box of the WebEx, and then we'll give that answer, the winner, their prize accordingly. And I'll give you about 30 seconds to answer. So the question is, how many MGAs are contracted to place business within the Lloyds, within the markets at Lloyds in the United States? So how many MGAs can write with Lloyds in the United States? Give you about 30 seconds. Let's see here. Give some of the answers as they start going around. 200, 400, 150, 300. We got them coming in both arenas here. 425, 500. No limit.
Not a wrong answer.
Not a wrong. There are. We got 600 here. A lot. I like that. There are a lot.
Not a wrong answer.
Not a wrong answer either. Let's see here. I think. All right. Should we give it what? Give you 10 more seconds here to answer. Again, how many MGAs are contracted to place business within the markets at Lloyd's in the U.S.? All right, let's call it. I think the winner is, let's see here, get the name right, Bill Furtado. At 600, there's actually 1,149 cover holders in the United States that are contracted to place business within Lloyd's of London. So Bill, congrats, Bill. We'll be following up with you and get your contact information, which I think we should have gathered on your registration, send this out to you. All right. Our first market being certain underwriters at Lloyd's of London that we place high-value home coverage with. But before we get into the actual program, let's cover Lloyd's of London. You know, most people don't know what Lloyd's of London is, and so want to go over that briefly with you guys. If you remember back to your licensing class, you probably covered this for a whole page and haven't had much education since then. You know, really, Lloyd's is the birthplace of insurance. Lloyd's was literally a tea and coffee house that was near the shipping docks in England back in, you know, when there was big expansion around the globe, and they were starting to send ships further and further than they ever had. They were also losing more and more ships than they ever had. That was due to pirates, mutiny, storms, you name it. And the merchants of these ships were either being imprisoned or beheaded, depending upon the goods that was lost, if it was from kings and queens or lords or what have you. So merchants, you know, were really worried because their livelihood was always at stake every time a ship went out to sea. So bankers saw this, and they saw this as an opportunity. What they did is they took money from the merchants, a premium, in exchange for coverage that if their ship didn't return, they would pay the kings and queens and lords for their lost goods at sea in travel. So this is the birthplace of insurance. The term underwriting comes from the Lloyd's house, in that the bankers would place a risk on the wall. It would have all the terms, the ship, where it was going, all the goods covered, the amount of premium they would collect, and the percentage of the risk that that banker wanted to take. And then underneath, the other bankers would go around and take also a percentage of that risk as well, 10, 20, 30, 40%. That's where the term underwriting literally comes from. You would underwrite under the slip, and you'd be a part of the coverage. All this started back in 1688 and has grown to one of the largest global industries today. Lloyd's, that you now know, is simply a governing body of a marketplace. So Lloyd's itself doesn't cover anything. They just oversee the transaction of their underwriters or their syndicates within the marketplace. They really monitor financial stability and compliance is really what they do. The syndicates within Lloyd's carry the risk, they pay the claims, and underwrite the different products and programs. They're known for writing very difficult to place and crazy risks, body parts of athletes or even singers. I know Bruce Springsteen had his voice covered under Lloyd's. Aviation, space and satellites. If anyone saw the recent Falcon 9 SpaceX explosion with the Facebook satellite on it, that was covered by Lloyd's. So it's a big deal over there right now for them. In terms of financial stability, they are A-rated, and they are exclusively not admitted to start in the United States, because if you, again, think back to your licensing class, they are an alien insurer, so they're not even in the United States. But however, they do have some money domiciled in the United States for some products and programs that need to be on an admitted basis now, so you will see them on an admitted basis. But with Abram Interstate, they are exclusively non-admitted.
Thanks for the history overview, John. So with Abram Interstate and Lloyds, one of the greatest things that I really truly love about working with Lloyds is that everyone that writes with them has different underwriting guidelines, different forms, different ratings. Every year we spend a lot of time renegotiating our contracts based on what we see as market needs, market changes, what we receive from feedback from you as our agents, and our goals here at Abram Interstate. This gives us the ability to really maintain a flexible and adaptable underwriting approach. With that in mind, our rates, our forms, our billing, underwriting guidelines, claims, all those things you see on the screen here really can vary from GA to GA. So it's always best to find out what your terms are with the GA you're working with. If you have a quote from another company through Lloyds, give us an opportunity to review it with our products. We may be able to be more competitive on pricing. We may be able to offer a different policy form. There could be limitations imposed on the other quote that we don't have to adhere to. So it's really great to know that we can always entertain a risk when it's already been rated with Lloyds. Some agents are familiar with market blocking, and so they assume that if it's been quoted with Lloyds, we're out of the running. Not the case here at all. So always give us an opportunity to review it. The worst we can say is no, but we will do our best to make it fit. Lloyds of London high-value homes. So what do we offer? On our high-value products, we really highlight two policy types. We do the HO3 and the DP3. You can see we really don't write any actual cash value forms. We do in our standard products, but not in our high value. So our starting point is as low as $450,000. We really don't have a cap on our maximum coverage limit. We kind of say, how big can you get? Give us an opportunity, we'll submit it and take a look. We do have some underwriting limitations as far as what we can quote here in the office, but keep that in mind for those really, really high value homes that you're working on, just to give us a little bit of lead time since we may need to submit it to our underwriters at Lloyds. Another great product feature of Lloyds is that we can really fit the risk or fit the policy to the risk itself. Coverages can always be tailored. I'm sure familiar with standard markets that impose certain set percentages. That can really impact premium. So when we're looking at a risk, if you give us the set percentages, we will quote it with that in mind. However, there's always an opportunity to negotiate terms. So for instance, if you have a coverage B limit that doesn't really need to be at that 10%, maybe they don't have any other structures on the property, or they only have $10,000 in fencing, we can drop down that limit to make it fit as needed. Conversely, if we have a lot of high-end features on the property, we can make that work as well. We've had some scenarios come through our office where there's been some pretty extensive horse stables, some really lavish guest homes and pool houses, all of those things that may be outside of an admitted carrier's appetite, because that can really bump up your coverage B limit. But with our Lloyds product, if we can figure out a way to write it, we will certainly do that. Another thing to point out is that it does offer 125% extended replacement cost. We won't necessarily offer it automatically, so do let us know if you want that, since it does affect the premium, but it is a great option to have on a non-admitted product form. We also have the ability to give you water backup coverage. One thing to point out with this particular program, we are only currently in California, so for secondary primary homes, they do have to be located here in the state.
Lloyd's occupancy. This is one big advantage that we have with our programs, that we can be very flexible and open to occupancy types. So we're obviously going to do your standards, your owner primary, owner secondary, your dwelling fire, your tenant primary. But in addition to that, I'd really like to highlight that we can do half owner primary and half vacation rental, which is a pretty unique occupancy type, as well as full vacation rentals. And as well as vacant high value as well, which comes up from time to time. So this is a real advantage for us and our appetite compared to some of the competitors out in the marketplace.
Exactly. So what you're going to see here is just really a snapshot of a list of our eligible and ineligible items. This is really just based on submission history and what we've seen in the past from writing. The main point that I really want to stress here is that this is just a quick little overview. Give us an opportunity to review the risk. There are so many cases that may seem uninsurable, and when we can get our hands on it, we figure out a way to write a certain type of policy form, to alter the coverages, to really make it work. Again, so we're building the policy around your individual needs. We've seen some interesting examples in the past. There's been situations where there's some incidental farming, maybe they are retired and now they want to grow some wine grapes on their premises. Doesn't necessarily qualify for farm policy, but it's a great risk with our Lloyds program. Same goes for some marijuana grow operations that have been coming up more predominantly now, especially. There's some restrictions, of course, but we do have an opportunity to entertain those. We also have seen some really interesting homes that have been used either occasionally or primarily for such things as TV or movie locations. So it's really nice to know that on what we see on a daily basis, that a lot of agents may see as uninsurable. We really take the time to look at it and stand back and say, how can we write this? Not how can we say no, but how can we make this work? So yes, sounds great, but how do we get a quote? So as you see, highlighted in red, very important, a completed Acord application. We do stress this with all of our products, of course, our home, auto, dwelling, fire, everything, we need a completed app. However, when it comes to high value, this is where it's very important. It's going to help us speed up the process for you, and in cases where we may need to submit to the carrier for approval or underwriting help, then it's going to, again, speed that process up and avoid any kind of back and forth that we need. Excuse me. So what we've seen are, again, some interesting homes, and what we want to avoid is finding out on the back end that there is some kind of custom-built aviary or subterranean wine bar with a hidden entry through some secret rock door. We've seen it all. If we know about that going in, we can figure out how to write it to prevent any kind of fallout on the back end. So again, all of the stuff that you're seeing on this screen, very important, and anything that you think may not be as important sometimes can end up being the make or break deal when it comes to the risk. So let us know as much details up front. All of those kind of specialty features, as you see here, the underground firing range, the parking, the elevators, skating rinks, those are all things that can come up when you're looking at a $4 to $5+ million dwelling. Again, the more we know up front, the better our chances are of writing the policy correctly the first time around and staying on that policy. So you know how to quote, how to submit. Now, how do you bind? You're going to email or fax your bind request. We make it extremely simple with Lloyds. That's our goal here. As you can see, we have on our website our fax and email address to send your email and fax requests to. From time to time, we'll do multiple quotes for you, especially when we get into these high-value programs, because we're, again, trying to tailor the policy as needed. So it's best to send back a copy of the quote that you actually want to move forward with. If we've asked for any kind of prior to bind items, you do need to submit those at the time of binding or prior to, just to ensure that everything runs smoothly. The application, the D1, and the premium, again, simple is our goal here. You don't need it at the time of binding, but we do need it in about 7 to 10 days before we start our follow-up process with your office. Most importantly is our contact information for the customer, because we do have an interior inspection that is ordered. Second to that is you don't need to worry about the SL2 form. We do it for you. Got it covered. Boom. So our inspections, as I said, and contact information is a must-have. If we don't have contact information, we will refer the inspection company to contact your office as the retail agent, since you have some connection with the customer. And that's only to assist in helping to schedule that appointment. We really need to make sure that we retain the business we write. We do not plan to write policies only to run them off after inspection. That's never our intention. So with that in mind, a couple of the items that we look for most importantly are up here, as well as just the overall condition of the property, any kind of brush hazards, things that you may not have been aware of as well. So what we like to do is look at the inspection report really thoroughly, and if there's any hazards that could put you at risk on your E&O as the agent as well, we like to keep you apprised of that. So it's not always a case in where we're trying to get off the policy or cause any kind of disruption. We just want to make sure that all parties involved in this are covered and covered properly.
All right. Thanks, Megan. All right, before we get into learning more about Chubb and their company and everything about them, one more trivia question. Let me pull up the chat boxes. So, question for you guys, closest to, again, gets a $20 Amazon gift card. How many billionaires live in California? We give you 30 seconds. 1,500. I wish there were that many. Too many.
I'll say 12.
You got me, Mike. Here. Okay, we'll do 15 more seconds. And we're done. I think I saw one. Ooh, we might have a tie here. Sharon Sprague and Linda Sundberg both had 125. There are 124 billionaires in California, according to the data I got in through 2015 was the year that they had. So congratulations to you guys. Bill Furtado, you got it right. I missed that. 124. Oh, Andrew Mendel too. Looks like we got a bunch of 125s.
Oh,
he did it right on the nose, Bill. All right. Must have Googled it now. I have to do these preventative Google trivias in the future. You got it, Bill. Good job, man. All right. We'll give the 125 some love, too. Cool. Moving on to Chubb. Chubb is the newest relationship to Abram Interstate, having started writing business with them here in 2016. Chubb is now the world's largest publicly traded property and casualty insurer. They have a market cap of $60.8 billion in written premium. They're operating in 54 countries. You know, very, very financially solid, A++ rated by AM Best. They are the largest high-value home carrier in the country. They only focus on insurance, which really helps their financial standing. And they're known for their thorough underwriting and mapping, and most of the time that allows them to have competitive pricing on the back end.
So Chubb is our newest high-value market, as we know. We are in the learning phase with them. So what we're asking for is really your help here, because the more submissions we get, the more we can learn what Chubb's appetite and pricing is. As we've put up here, $1 million is our coverage A limit. Higher limits are available. We will submit everything for approval that we possibly can. So give us an opportunity to review it, and we will run with it. Lower coverages could be an option with Chubb. However, they typically want additional lines. Primarily a home and auto is their goal. Another feature to point out with them is they offer higher limits on liability than just $1 million. Another really great option too is the extended replacement cost. They can come in at a total of $200. They really do 100% extended replacement cost, which totals the two. And as we've said, we're looking at this in our 11 western states.
The occupancy with Chubb is very straightforward, much in line with the standard line carrier, and even a little more restricted than that. For HO3, they will obviously write an owner primary. They will write an owner secondary, but primary is required. They'll write a seasonal, primary required, same thing, and same thing with the line fire business. They want that primary business to be able to write the other lines.
So again, it's just a quick overview here. As I said, we are in our learning phase. In addition to that, they really like the opportunity to write the policy around the risk almost as much as Lloyds. They look at everything on a case-by-case basis. They do an exceptional job at their mapping and concentration review to make sure that they can offer the best pricing and the best policy form available to that individual risk. So give us an opportunity to review your submission, and we promise to do the best we can to find you coverage. Great to know if something does not happen to go through with Chubb, that we do still have our Lloyd's product there to back us up. So how do you get a quote with Chubb? It is a little bit different. With Chubb, as we've come to learn from them in our recent interactions, we need a little bit more underwriting information. So although an Acord application is always preferred, we've actually built our own Chubb application. So what we've done is take all of the actual pertinent information that is required within their system and put it on a fillable application. That being said, if you already have your application filled out, you have it on Acord, you're farming it out to multiple agents, that's fine, but we do need a Chubb supplement then. Again, this is really not to make you do more work or have to go back and forth with the agent. It's really to get all of the details up front ready to go, because the Chubb underwriters do their job very diligently. So these supplements were created in an effort to make it a little bit easier for you, the agents, to get everything in one fell swoop when you're discussing that with your insured. So you will find those on our forms and applications page very shortly. In addition, just keep in mind all the items that you see here on the page are always required. So Chubb binding. It's almost as easy as Lloyd's, but not quite. We do still need a fax or an email requesting to bind. However, we do need the signed application at time of binding. In the event we've done multiple quotes, we also need a copy of that. So signed app, most importantly, is the difference there, but again, that can all come in one single email or fax requesting to move forward with binding. If there was anything requested prior to binding, please make sure to submit that as well. It will speed up your process. Same with Lloyds, we do need valid contact information for those high-value interior inspections. One thing to point out with Chubb is it is a direct bill policy, so all of the billing goes directly from Chubb to our insureds. It's a really nice feature. It keeps us out of the fold, but it makes sure that your customers have different payment options available. They will see an option to also create an online account so they can pay by different methods online as well. inspections. So with Chubb, as with Lloyds, interior inspections, we live and die by them. We have to make sure that everything presented on the application is, of course, as it is on the home itself. Make sure that we have it properly covered. Again, it's not meant to cause disruption. It's meant to make sure that all parties involved in this policy are protected in the event of a claim. What we find with Chubb is that they will process the policy once it's been re-underwritten and bound. They inspect it fairly quickly, so definitely within a 30-day time frame is their target. They're looking for any kind of condition concerns, brush concerns, as well as value concerns. What we will receive from them is a notice indicating if there's any actions to be taken. Chubb also has a nice feature where they will send out a copy of some of the inspection highlights directly to your customer with any kind of recommendations. So they will be apprised ahead of time, and they'll have some of the information already at their fingertips that when you give them a call to let them know what we've told you, they will have basically the same information ready to discuss that.
Thank you, Megan. And thank you, everyone, for your time this afternoon. We really appreciate you all taking the time out of your busy day to attend our webinar. Our hope today is that you gain more knowledge about the high-value home marketplace, increased underwriting understanding, as well as a further familiarity with the process and information needed to help you better guide your client as the expectation from quoting, binding, and finally inspection. And then lastly, I'd like to open up to question and answer. So if you have any questions, please type them into either chat or question and answer box now, and we'll answer them. Anyone that needs to jump off, we really appreciate it. Looks like we kept this to about 38 minutes or so. All right, let's take a look here.
Renewal. So when we're looking at our Lloyd program, renewal is kind of on a direct bill method as well. It is basically re-underwritten every term. So we re-rate it, review it, make sure it's still acceptable at the rate that we're offered. If we need to make any adjustments, we'll do that as far as coverages or endorsements are concerned. A copy of the renewal offer goes directly to the insured as well as the agent and your office. It's all done by mail. And so basically whoever pays first wins, we accept a premium, and then we'll issue the new policy. With Chubb, again, we are at a new learning phase with them, but it is a direct bill policy, so they will be billing our customers directly with a copy of that renewal offer. No, new signed paperwork is not required unless there have been significant changes in the policy at some point. Now, if Chubb comes back and wants additional information, they will give us a heads up so that we know about that prior to, and then we'll take the necessary steps so that we can get you that information ahead of time as quickly as possible.
And just so everyone knows, a copy of this will be emailed to you so you can review it later.
Yeah,
yes.
The recording and the slides, both.
Okay.
We'll also send the Chubb application as well. Let's see here. Question about your high-value Lloyd's product. You said if we can quote on P.U.R.E. Online Rater. Is P.U.R.E. the same program as your high-end Lloyd's program?
So P.U.R.E. is really meant for our standard Lloyd's products, primarily those that are coverage of 750 and below. But what we give you is the option to still submit your application through that format, because some of our agents are very familiar with that system, they're used to using it, and they might prefer it over an Acord application. So if you elect to submit your information through that system, it's a fine way to do that. However, just know that that quote is not bindable because it's ultimately needing to be reviewed here in office.
Doug Nabel asks, why Chubb? Is it a better product than Lloyd's? You know, I would say no. I'd say they're very similar. Chubb is just admitted. They have a few more bells and whistles and more than anything pricing for them, and they're just very competitive with your more standard
you know, low hazard risk, they can get more competitive in terms of price.
Exactly. For a Main Street dwelling that's just a very high coverage limit, Chubb's really a good go-to. However, what we find on looking at some of these, because we are working to learn pricing more, so we're oftentimes quoting both Chubb and Lloyds to see what they look like. Sometimes Lloyds is a better premium, and that's because Lloyds is more flexible and adaptable in some areas where Chubb really doesn't want to be a player in.
That's right. How do these companies look at breed of dogs like pit bulls, Rottweilers, Akita, etc.?
So Lloyds, no problem. You got a pit bull, we'll take it. Now, there may be some restrictions as far as liability is concerned there. However, it's not a problem. We actually are able to even entertain risk with prior liability claims concerning animals. So that's a really great feature for Lloyd. When it comes to Chubb, we really do have to look at all of those features, though. It could be a problem for them on a case-by-case.
Short-term rentals. Mentioned that high-end Lloyd's program allows for short-term rentals. Does Chubb allow that too? No, they do not. Howard Gardner, Lloyd's high value, no dog breed issue, just covered that. What is the email address for submitting the Acord app? Really good question. It is apps, apps at abraminterstate.com, and we'll include that in the email follow-up as well.
And also when you visit our website, abraminterstate.com, and go to our forms and applications page, it's one of the first options that you will see there is our how to submit business.
Yep. Does Chubb consider the higher PCs as well?
So an interesting thing with Chubb that we're learning is they don't really go by protection class. They have their own interior mapping system. So for instance, it could be a PC10 that's located in a very low risk area for them with low concentration. They could be open to that, absolutely. However, when we think high PCs, we are typically looking at those through Lloyd's just based on our historical findings. They usually can offer better pricing in terms.
Howard Gardner, you asked about the slope degree. With our Lloyd's programs, our max is typically about 35%. 35.
We can look at some higher slopes. We, again, look at everything in its own situation. There could be a time when it makes sense to write a higher degree of slope because it's in a particular area, and another home with the same slope could be unacceptable.
Bill, you asked a question about other business, auto, umbrella, and question mark. I'm not really sure.
Well, our Lloyd's product, we're really looking at just the home and dwelling
property,
fire.
Yeah.
When we're looking at Chubb, we are open to writing packages. They will do the auto if written alongside a primary homeowners. They have an umbrella program as well as personal article floaters available.
You guys always run the protection class and do the brush map, right? No need for me to subscribe to a service for that?
So a different answer for both programs. With Chubb, they run everything on their back end. So it's nothing that we actually have access to. It's all done in their own internal underwriting. With our Lloyd's program, we really base our review off of what you've given us. So if you put a PC2 on the application, and unless there's no features listed that would make us think it's a higher protection class, we're going to quote it based on a PC2, and that's going to be subject to inspection to confirm that. If you don't give us a PC, we may come back, ask for some additional details, such as distance to hydrant, distance to fire station. We can get a good idea of what PC it's located in, but unfortunately, until it's time for inspection, we might not have a definitive answer. So we really do rely on you for that information.
Okay, I don't really know.
The gray boxes that you're seeing are, it's our chat and Q&A boxes. We have to bring them up to be able to see. I don't think it translates the information over to everyone else, so you just see a blank gray box instead. So that's what you're seeing.
Yep.
Sorry about them being in the first few slides.
Is Abram a GA for Evanston Insurance Company? We do not represent Evanston for personal line property, no.
There's another good question up here. How do we value the home for quoting? Is there a tool for value? So again, as with protection class, we really do rely on our retail agents to provide us with that information. Looking at some of these over the years and looking at inspections, we can help guide you if we think it's severely underinsured, but we really don't know the risk as well as you do. So again, we rely on you for that information. There are some systems available, such as MSD. You may use your own internal system if you have another company you work with that has it integrated in. I know some of our agents use a third-party system or third-party company, for instance, Travelers or Safeco. They run the replacement costs in order to know what to send here on the application. Really, again, everything's subject to inspection, so we're going to take it, but we're going to pend it for inspection.
There are a couple free services out there. I think it's replacement-cost.net is a free one that you can find. It's pretty good, and you can put all kinds of bells and whistles on it, and it comes up with replacement costs as well.
And one thing to keep in mind when valuing or deriving a replacement cost for the home is it's really replacement cost. Sometimes it can be confused with the value of the property, and when we're looking at a high value home, that can really impact the rate, of course. If it's a $10 million sale price, but it might only be $5 million to actually rebuild the property. So do take that into consideration.
Land in California is pricey, so we're not covering the land. Any other questions?
Or suggestions for protection class. ISO does derive protection class. However, I've heard some mixed rumors that they potentially are getting away from that. So we don't use it, so I can't speak to that as well. We oftentimes will estimate things through FSC, so if you use FSC, that's a good source as well. We generally can kind of give you a rule of thumb. If the hydrant is not within 1,000 feet, oftentimes it's at least a protection class 8. If the fire station is not within 5 miles, it's more often than not going to be a protection class 9 or 10.
Somebody suggested ISO Passport. I don't know much about them. How do we value their gates and walls?
And those kind of things need to be considered. Gates and walls need to be considered under other structure coverage. So again, when you're running replacement costs, you need to take those into consideration. And usually a high value cost guide is going to give you some kind of breakdown on how to separate out those features. In the event you don't have those separated out, our high value inspections are very detailed and itemized, so they will take all of those individual features into account.
And again, all of this information is going to be available via direct recording of this webinar, as well as the direct PowerPoint slide presentation. So anything you missed because of the gray boxes is going to be available via the PowerPoint, and that will be emailed to you directly afterwards, either today or tomorrow.
All right, thank you everyone for attending. Really appreciate your time. Have a great afternoon, rest of your day.
Thank you.
Talk to you guys soon. Oh, one more.
Special coverage for parties, liquor. So although the policy will provide liability typically, when it comes to special events, one-day event coverage is going to be your best friend. You always want to make sure it's properly insured. Sometimes there can be wording on a policy that can look like it's covering it 1 minute, and in that particular event that's being thrown, there could be a restriction there. So one-day event policies are what we suggest.
Yeah, and we also just recently had a blog post having to do with liquor and parties and whatnot, so head to our blog and check that out.
Thank you guys. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Great day. Take care. Talk to you guys soon.